So in this video, we will be looking at how to make a biological drawing. Now, to make a biological drawing is a skill that is only going to be assessed in a practical task. Very seldom will you be asked to make a biological drawing in a theory exam or like a cycle test. Biological drawing is when you make a drawing and you are assessed more on your ability to draw than the facts or the labels that are given. So when we do biological drawings, make sure that you have your ruler with you, a sharpener, pencil, and obviously your pen. So make sure that whatever drawing you're going to make, you make sure your pencil is nice and sharp so we don't have a blunt end. Okay, so we're going to do that on the one side over here. Make sure it is actually, no, it's sharp enough. And then obviously an eraser in case. So the first criteria, when you make a biological drawing, one of two things might happen. You may be asked to actually draw a given picture or a microscope slide that you made. This is a microscope slide that was made in class, and you can clearly see the epithelium cell there enlarged 400 times. So if we did this in class, most of the grade 9s did this. Now we're expected to draw it. We get to the practical and I say to you, make a biological drawing of this slide that you've made. Now, obviously, you will have the criteria with you sometimes, but by the time you get to grade 12, you need to know the criteria off by heart. This very same rubric is used to mark biological drawings from grade 8 all the way to grade 12. And as you can see, a mark is given to each of the following criteria using a sharp pencil, having no visible joints, the size of the entire picture, excluding the heading, must be half to 2/3 of an A4 page, no shading, but you have to dot. Your label lines must be drawn with a ruler. The labels must all go on the right-hand side, and usually you're given 3 or 4 marks, or 1 mark for having 3 or 4 labels. Your heading must show the magnification and how would you calculate it if you had to, and then another 2 marks, each one for accuracy and proportion. First of all, let's start then. If this is the size of our page, kind of half of the page would be 15 centimeters. So I intend on making my picture about that size, like that. Okay, so it needs to fill at least half to 2/3 of a page. So your drawing has to fill half to 2/3 of a page. So then the first thing we need is a heading. So it needs to say, in this case, it's going to say epithelial cell from inside human cheek. So now I know what I'm looking at and where I got it from. In other words, I need to give a name and I need to give the source. Now, obviously, you're not going to write name and source on your heading. You'll just be given a mark for the underlined sentence, epithelial cell from the inside of the human mouth. And now if we make our picture, and I say it needs to be about that size, from the picture I give you, okay, this is a microscope slide made by one of our grade 9s, really nice slide. You are supposed to only draw what you see. So that's the single cell I see. There's a nucleus inside. Now, very importantly, I do not want to see where your lines join. In other words, you can see where I put my pencil down and then where I ended is a very faint little joint. I don't actually want to see that joint at all. Okay, the smaller the joint, the better. Okay, same with the nucleus. You can actually see a faint little where I started and ended. I don't want to actually see that. So with my red pen, I would actually circle that point and I might circle that point. So if I see more than 3 joints like that, you will lose a mark. But obviously no one is perfect, so I allow at least one little mistake. That's okay. So now, if we look at this picture, it doesn't make a lot of sense if we haven't put some difference in color in. Now, obviously, In a biological drawing, we are not allowed to shade, but you should draw dots. You must dot. So the nucleus in this case of the cell is actually darker than the surrounding cytoplasm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dot the inside of the nucleus, but I'm going to add a lot of dots. Okay, and then the surrounding cytoplasm, I just add a few dots. No shading, must dot. The moment I do that, you can actually see that there's more definition inside the nucleus than around. So the more dots you put, the more it implies that this is a darker area. Okay? Now, when you are done with your picture, it's really, really this simple. I don't need much more information than that. I need to put some labels. Now, your label lines go in pencil. So you can make them in pen as well, but they need to be in a nice straight line. So what I tend to do, some people like to make a little pencil drawing like that. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to label. Now I will always tell you how many labels to add, and you notice that I use my ruler. It's easier to make your label lines in pen, but you can make them in pencil as well. I prefer the pen, but either way is correct. So there's my first label line pointing towards the cell membrane. So that's my cell membrane. And then the inside of this whole cell, the jelly-like substance inside, is called the cytoplasm. So I'm going to make my second label cytoplasm. And then the third thing I see there is this dark dot inside the cell, which is my nucleus. Okay, so there's our nucleus. Now the marks that you get is for having all your labels on the right hand side of the cell. Okay, so on your drawing you need the labels on the right hand side. All the label lines are drawn in pen or in pencil, but with a ruler. They must be straight, neatly drawn lines, and they're not allowed to cross at all. So I can't now go and make a label like that, a label line like that. So no crossing is allowed. All right, now if this is a microscope slide that I drew, I need to add to the top of where my heading is, I need to say how many times this was enlarged. And this enlargement is actually, it was enlarged 400 times. So I write X 400. Okay, so that is what a biological drawing looks like. It is super, super simple. I know a lot of the arty-farty people, the artists, they like making drawings that's very, like, oh, sketchy. We shade it a bit, and we draw a dark dot in there. This is completely wrong. So don't be intimidated. You might be given a picture like this, which is some professional made a microscope slide of epithelial cells. Then you'll be asked to draw this. Same thing, you simply draw what you see, and in this case the magnification will be given to you. Or you could be asked to make your own and then draw what you see like we did now.